Thank you. So, I would like to ask a question, maybe two. Uh, how many of you were curious as kids? Can you raise your hands? Oh, great. So, how many of you are still as curious as you were back then? The same amount of curiosity. Great. So, I believe creativity begins with curiosity. A filmmaker, a painter, a singer, everyone becomes an artist from the curiosity. As kids, we were all curious, right? Like you told me. And as kids, we were best at our art. Like we used to paint, we used to sing, we used to do pottery, whatnot. I was also a curious child back then. I still remember I used to live in my ancestral town in my Taravadu, which I believe you all had one. And there was this huge wooden shelf of my grandpa. I call him Achachan. So beneath that wooden almara, there was this black space, dark space. That was the first thing that fascinated me. Every time I put my hands inside, I got something. Like something would magically appear. Like my long lost toys, the old edition of Balarama, and the stumble bowls which we used to play. And I will tell you another story. I loved butterflies. Like every single time I used to run behind butterfly in my backyard. I loved how its wings are designed, its colors and all. So one day my grandpa gave me a small book and a pencil and told me, instead of just running behind it, why not write something about it? So that was the first time I wrote a poem, a four-line poem or something. So my journey as an artist or a writer or a filmmaker started from there. The same amount of curiosity, the same curiosity is what helps me write even now. Average Humbly, which I believe some of you might have seen. I've seen stories about successful people. I've seen films about successful people. I've seen films about backbenchers, the so-called failures, and how they succeed later. I've seen films and movies and web series about them too. But it was from my curiosity to know what about the rest, the people in between, the average ones, the majority of us who are right here. Even now, I believe there are people who consider themselves as average. So what about them? What about their story? It's from this amount of curiosity, it's from this question which I asked myself that I wrote Average Humbly. Same with Sebastian de Velliaicha, my recent web series. Its last episode was released yesterday. So it's a filmmaker's journey. I've seen filmmakers' journey. I've seen films with filmmakers as protagonists. But I wanted something, I wanted something more real, like close to them, so personal to them. And there were stories about filmmakers, how they succeed and, how the journey is. But in Sebastian, it's something different which I tried. And it was from that question of what if a filmmaker didn't actually win? He might do a movie at the end, but what if it didn't succeed? So that actually happens more than someone becoming a successful filmmaker. Another favorite work of mine is CHANDRASHEKAR. Have anyone watched it? I don't know, but it's there in YouTube. So I've seen music videos, romance music videos, love stories of youngsters and adults. It was from my curiosity to know what happened if two people above 60 falls in love. CHANDRASHEKAR happened. So when I look back, what made me an artist or what made me a writer or a filmmaker is the curiosity that I had as a kid. I was lucky enough to hold on to that curiosity even when I grew up. I would like to thank my parents for that actually. Back then, when every other parent was shifting the school of the kid from a government school to a private one, my parents did exactly opposite. I was studying in a private English medium school, and they shifted me to a government Malayalam medium school. And the reason was, I always asked questions to them. And in a government school, they believed that I could ask more questions other than my academics. So it was from there I started getting more, more experience, and I started getting more exposure with my fellow students and my fellow colleagues who are also interested in art. And also, when I was in 7th, my Malayalam teachers, Usha teacher and Seema teacher, they sent me to a 3-day workshop. It was introduction to world cinema. Trust me, I was no way in relation to cinema back then. I was just in 7th standard. And usually students from 10th standard and 12th standard go for 3-day workshop and all, because we have to stay there. And I had asthma back then, so it's very rare that I went out of my house other than school. So, but they insisted and they took me there. I don't know what they actually saw in me. I don't know why they believed that I might get interested in it, or I might find it captivating. That 3 days actually laid the basic of a filmmaker in me. And I think they were right. I was really curious to know more about films from then, and that's why I'm standing here. So looking back, like I said, this curiosity is what fuels me to do more. Like, as we grow older, everyone loses this curiosity. Everyone loses the whats and whys and hows in our life. I believe maths, somebody might be good in maths and some might be good in science. Yeah, but creativity is everyone's cup of tea. All you need to do is bring out that inner child in you. Be curious. Enjoy the sunsets like you did back then. Look at the train, how it's running, and just wonder, wow. All you need to be is just curious. Creativity, art, or whatever you like, is just like that dark space beneath that wooden almara. All you need to do is be curious, be that kid, and be really, really curious to lay your hands inside. You might know what you get. Maybe some great music, great books, great movies. You never know. Just be that kid again. Be curious. Like Albert Einstein said, I'm not really talented, or I'm not really gifted. I'm just a very, very curious human being. This is me, ADITHYAN Chandrashekar, actor, writer, director, and like I said, a very curious human being. Thank you.